Hello everyone, it's Sho from Online Kaigai. Japanese Minister Mr. Kishida calling on the company to raise the wages faster than inflation rate. However, Japanese wages struggle to keep up with it. Today, I'm hitting the street and asking the foreigner about their salary and inflation situation in other country. If you're interested in this kind of topic, please make sure to smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe my channel. Alright, let's get started. Alright, here's the first guest. Can I ask you your name and where you guys from?
I'm Will. I'm from Sydney.
Michael, I'm from England.
And Matt, and I'm also from Sydney.
Sydney. Alright, nice to meet you guys. What do you do for a living?
I work in private wealth management, deal with private money and clients and then how they invest that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I'm a data scientist for a technology company.
And I'm an accountant.
And how long have you been working for?
I've been working for nearly 4 years now.
4 years.
We all went to uni
Yeah.
together.
Okay, cool. All right. Today, in this video, we're talking about the money, like, and the inflation in Japan or in your country. So you guys been here for a while, right? And you've seen prices in Japan. What's the impression of prices in Japan? It's much cheaper or more higher than what you expected?
It's much cheaper than Australia. We were here 4 years ago and noticed prices haven't changed too much in the time between. But yeah, quite cheap.
And what things do you feel it's more expensive and cheaper in Japan?
Alcohol and tobacco are the two big ones. Alcohol and tobacco are a lot cheaper here.
Cheaper
Yeah.
Okay.
And then food is slightly cheaper here.
Accommodation
is
quite-
a bit
quite
cheaper,
cheap.
yeah.
And a lot of taxes
Taxi,
on alcohol and tobacco, which makes it much more expensive.
And same thing all over Europe. This is probably the cheapest place I've been to in terms of alcohol and tobacco. Cheaper than anywhere in Europe. Cheaper than America.
What things is the most expensive in your country? Like,
Well, at the moment in the UK, it's electricity. Electricity prices, they're quite expensive in Australia, although not to the same extent.
Real estate is probably the most
Yeah, real
expensive
estate,
thing
yeah.
in Australia.
yeah.
Same thing in London, yeah. It's very expensive real estate.
Because
Yeah.
we're so far away, though, it costs a lot of money to import things, so everything in Australia is pretty expensive. But the wages are typically higher, so
Yeah.
the cost of living is pretty
It's
similar.
pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing is like there seems to be more variation in terms of like food. If you go to like really expensive food establishments, they're as expensive anywhere, but you have like lower end options. So for example,
We have a lot.
Yoshinoya.
we've gone to Yoshinoya a lot.
Yeah,
which is
it's the cheapest option to have it eat
but it's-
here.
exactly, but that's very cheap and actually pretty good. So that's very good
Right,
value.
right.
So I think you have more range in terms of food options, in terms of eating out.
I think Australia probably has a higher minimum wage. So
Yeah.
$85,
Yeah.
I think, at the moment,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like, do you know like a minimum wage in Japan?
No.
Can you guess?
16?
16
No, it'd be less.
US dollar.
No, it'd be something like
14?
yeah, like
14.
11 USD per hour. I'm guessing.
He's a closer. It's actually 10 US.
Wow.
10.
Like a-
In the US dollar, it's 8 US dollar.
Yeah, I seem to remember a friend saying that it's like a first-year investment banker in Tokyo makes less than like minimum wage in California. I think I saw like a news story. 30 years of economic stagnation in
Yeah.
Japan is going.
I
things
wanted
like,
to show like some index, a real wage index for some country. I'm sorry, I don't have a like a US. I mean Australia, and
that's fine, yeah.
yeah, like most of the country wages has increased, but Japan hasn't rising last 20 years. So that's why we're facing wage crisis.
So isn't like South Korea now higher wages South Korea than Japan, which is historically that would be completely the opposite. Right.
Yeah, right. So let's say if you satisfy your wage, I mean salary, what would you do? Do you negotiate your company or would you change your job?
The easiest way is to change company. That's an easy way to do it. But from when I was working in Australia, it's pretty common to like every year get some kind of wage increase.
They link it to CPI, which is our inflation kind of measurement. So it rises consistent with that.
So you don't really have to ask the employee to raise a wage.
No.
I've never done it.
Typically you do,
Typically,
yeah.
dependent on company.
Depends on and you can put pressure on your employer by saying you'll go elsewhere. And then you have it's a lot of back and forth, how much power you hold and how much power they hold,
Yeah.
and try and negotiate between
Yeah,
the
yeah,
middle.
yeah.
Especially recently, there's been lots of labour shortages, so it's been pretty easy to get like wage increases because they know that otherwise people will leave.
Yeah.
Which I think that wasn't the case like 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Can I ask you where are you from?
Frank, I'm from Florida.
what do you do for a living, and how long have you been working for?
Medical device engineer. I've been doing that since 2013.
So where do you live right now?
Right now, where am I staying? In Kyoto.
In Kyoto.
Yeah.
So you're working remotely
Uh-huh.
all over the world.
Yeah. I've been traveling doing this for about 2 years now.
Okay, so you've been to a lot of like Asian country.
Yeah. I've been to five or six Asian countries now.
Great, it's good opportunity to ask him. In this video, we're talking about the prices and money. And first of all, what was the impression of the prices in Japan?
Not as expensive as I thought. Figured it would be on par with the U.S. as far as the cost. But coming over here, everything from food and clothing to even my lodging has not been that expensive as much as I was expecting.
And also, you've been to some Asian country. Which country do you feel is cheaper?
The most inexpensive country is Vietnam. If I was to put them in order, I'd say Vietnam, then Thailand, then Malaysia, then Japan, then the U.S.
So cost of living in the Asian country, but you making money based on U.S. salary, right?
Right, I make U.S. money in South Asian countries, so it's really good.
It's very good.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a two-part question, but how much do you make money per month?
After taxes, about $1,700 a week.
Week?
Yeah.
Really? And how much can you put in your saving bank account?
I don't really
You don't
keep
really-
track of that.
Okay.
No.
So you can use as much as you want.
It's a little bit more difficult to save money when you're spending foreign currency
Yeah,
because you
right.
don't keep track of that.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah, I was in the South America. I didn't really know how much exactly I spent on money because the currency is the difference.
It's like monopoly money, right? It's
yeah.
not real to you. When it's U.S. dollars, it's more real. So what happened was in the U.S., my rent went up from, it was about $1,600 a month. It went up to $2,700 a month. If I would have re-signed at least for a year, yeah. So instead of doing that, I said, well, why don't I just travel, right? And so to offset the inflation, I came out to Southeast Asia, where I'm,
You can be more affordable.
it's done more than offset.
How much do you need if you live in comfortably in the U.S.?
To live comfortably in the U.S., I would say probably a salary of $50,000 a year. To be able to go on vacation, maybe twice a year.
Middle class.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
problem. Thank
It was
you.
nice talking to you.
Thanks.
All right, here's the next. Can I ask where you're from?
Yeah, my name's Paul and I'm from the UK.
Nice to meet you. Can I ask you what do you do for a living?
Yeah, I work for a trading company
Trading company.
in the UK.
And how long have you been working for?
About 5 years now.
5 years. We have a little bit chat before the filming. You used to work in Japan as an English teacher. How was your experience in Japan?
Yeah, I loved it. I was living in Hiroshima for 3 years in a small town, so felt very authentic as an experience.
So we be facing like a crazy inflation all over the world. What item do you feel getting more expensive in the UK?
Well, the most obvious one is like petrol or
Petrol.
gasoline. It's skyrocketed in the last year, but we all know that's probably because of the war in Ukraine, and then electricity has gone up. Things that you notice more because your bills are almost double what they were in a year. So
I wanted to show the picture of real wage index for some country,
okay,
and the UK wage definitely going up since 1997.
from 97.
This is an like a real wage index, which
Right.
means like adjusted for effect of inflation.
Right.
Japan wage is also increasing a little bit, but at the same time, inflation rate also much higher than ratio of wage increase.
Yeah.
So wage is just decreasing
Yeah.
past 20 years.
Yeah.
For let's say if you're not satisfied your salary, what would UK people do?
Yeah, that's a good question because I think there's a cultural thing there as well. I think in the UK that speak to your company and you would say,
Employee.
I want a raise. Also in the UK, your wage is reviewed every year. So you hope that the company considers inflation when they review your wage. The other option is you can change job,
Change your job.
which is obviously far more common in other countries than Japan, I think.
Just in general, how many times do UK people change the job during a lifetime?
I've had 5 jobs in the
5?
last 10 years.
Because in Japan, like if you like change your job several times, maybe like more than 3 times, maybe it's kind of getting hard to get a new job because like a new employee consider to, oh, this guy might be quite soon.
Yeah, it can be a disadvantage, definitely. But that's where you can explain in your interview. Many companies like diverse experiences, so they like having new ideas coming from different perspectives.
Yeah.
So it's seen as a positive as well, unless it's like every year you're changing job. Most jobs I hold for probably like 2.5, 3 years. So.
Yeah, I think it's a good point to have a very diversity option for the company.
Yeah.
Can you guess how much is a average salary in Japan?
In the whole country now, $45,000, maybe a bit more.
The answer is 33,000.
Wow.
It's much cheaper. Let's say if you live in London,
Yeah.
how much do you need to live in comfortably?
Yeah, London is very expensive. Obviously, one of the most expensive cities in the world. So, we talk about the living wage, so not the minimum wage, but like what you need to kind of comfortably live. And I think it's probably about $45,000.
All right, that's it. Thank you so much for your time. It was nice to talking to you. Arigato. Do you speak Japanese? All right, here's an amazing guest. Can I ask your name and where you from?
Yes, my name is Nina, and I live in New York City.
New York City, amazing place. And also most expensive city in the world.
Yep.
What do you do for a living? And how long have you been working for?
So I am a product designer in tech, and then also a creative director. I have been a product designer for about 6 years almost, and the creative director work for maybe 3 years.
It's kind of too-fold question, but do you mind me asking how much you're making money per month?
Yeah. So before I was I was a product designer for a startup, and so I was full-time, and I was making about $125,000 to $130,000. But now I'm doing contract design work, which means that I get paid hourly. And so my hourly rate, depending on the contract, can be anywhere between $90 to $120 pre-tax. And that's actually that's on the lower end for the hourly for these roles. I know people who make like up to $150 to $200 an hour for similar work.
What's your first impression of Japanese prices compared to the US?
Yeah. So I actually grew up in the Bay Area in California, so like Silicon Valley.
Okay.
So from Bay Area to New York City, both are very, very, very expensive cities. I think maybe the most expensive cities in the US.
Right.
And so compared to that, Japan is so much cheaper. And even just talking to my friends and knowing how much they pay for rent is a lot cheaper. But I also know that my friends that are working in tech here make less, like the salaries are lower.
Can you guess annually average salary in Japan?
The average salary,
Yeah.
I think it's like 30,000 or
30,000. That's a good figure.
20,000 maybe. Is it lower or higher?
It's actually 33,000.
33,000. Okay,
right?
wow.
It's a little bit higher.
It's a little bit higher. But in the US, the poverty line is at $30,000. I don't know if this is the same case in Japan, but like wages in the US are stagnating. So wages are not going up, but things are getting more expensive, which is really, I think, what's affecting people. They're not making more.
For living in New York City, how much do you need to get paid if you live in comfortably? How much would you say?
To live comfortably, that's the key word, comfortably. I have this conversation with my friends a lot because we're all in different industries and we all make different amounts. We make different amounts of money. And so I have a friend who is making about $60,000 and she was really struggling to live comfortably. I think that you need to be making, I want to say, I think about 100,000, 120,000, I think. Maybe 90,000 even, but if you want to go out, like drinks are very expensive. You have to pay an entrance fee to get into the clubs. When I first moved to New York, I was making $62,000, and so I was making
Still good money.
still good, but it was really hard to always budgeting. I was always kind of stressed about money.
Okay.
I wasn't really going out at all. I was trying to cook a lot, so the quality of life was not so great for me. And I like to go out. I like to live comfortably, you know? So,
If you graduated university, what is the average for the person who working the first year?
Well, so I know for tech, let's say you go to school for computer science. Your first year out of college, you're going to be making $150,000. That's the starting salary for developers.
What item do you feel is getting more expensive in New York City? And
Gas is really, really expensive, especially over the summer, which doesn't matter in New York City though, because you're not driving. Most people are not driving.
Yeah, that's right.
So you're taking trains, stuff like that. But even the price of like for the train, for MTA, the ticket prices are going up. Like it feels like the cost of everything is going up, inflation.
Grocery?
Groceries, so groceries I would say is the thing that's getting the most expensive. This last year, I decided to start cooking more to save money on going out because when you go out to eat in the area I live in,
It's very expensive, right?
maybe $25 for a meal.
For meal, and
For a
also
meal.
you need to pay the tax and the tips.
Tips, tax, all of it. So it gets very expensive and you don't have leftovers, right? So imagine doing that 2 times a day. So I decided to start cooking more,
Yeah.
Just to go get groceries, some like vegetables, meats, whatever. I was spending almost $150 a week, which is still very, very expensive,
All right, thank you so much for your time. And
Yes.
enjoy your trip.
Thank you for having me.
All right, there you have it, everyone. It was a very interesting interview. I really enjoyed talking to everyone. What's the inflation situation in your country? Please let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, make sure to smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. All right, see you next time.